November 10th, 2024.
Okay.
Madam Secretary, will you please provide a roll call?
When your name is called, please answer with here or present. Member Frost.
Present.
Member Killebrew.
Here for present.
Member Pagano.
Present.
Vice Chair Mitchell.
Here.
For the record, all members of the Financial Review Committee are present with the exception of the City Council appointed seat, which is vacant.
We will now move on to public comments. Do we have any public comments tonight?
We have no public comments
Okay.
at this time.
Sorry. Do I still have to read this, or can I just start? Huh? So we'll move on to new business. Item number 1, organization of the Financial Review Committee. It's the recommended action that the Financial Review Committee nominate and vote for a chair and a vice chair of the Financial Review Committee and forward to City Council with a recommendation to receive and file. Do we have any nominations for chair?
I nominate you if you'd like to do it.
Have you done it? Or
No,
yeah.
I mean, I will if you don't want to.
I don't care. Matt, do you want?
I was gonna recommend her as well.
Okay, all right.
Is that gonna be a pain if you're, when you're
I-
a baby?
Let's
Gonna
have an
be
extra
out.
member. Let's have an extra member.
Just have to make sure. There's our fourth member. Well, I don't know how does that work if I have to go out on maternity leave.
Yeah, we have a vice.
Vice chair? Okay.
Can I make a nomination for Mr. Frost to be the vice chair?
Second.
Perfect. So do we need a second for, we have a second for chair, and then there are no more nominations. Madam Secretary, can you call for a vote, please?
What are we voting
For chair first, and then we'll do vice
for?
chair.
Okay. Voting for Chair, Member Frost.
Yes.
Member Killebrew.
Yes.
Member Pagano.
Yes.
Member Vice Chair Mitchell.
Abstain?
Yes.
You can vote for yourself.
Okay.
This,
Yes.
this motion passes with a vote of 4-0. For Vice Chair, Member Frost,
Yes.
Member Killebrew,
Yes.
Member Pagano,
Yes.
Vice Chair Mitchell.
Yes.
This motion passes by a vote of 4-0.
On to item number 2 is the approval of the Financial Review Committee meeting minutes from April 30th of 2024. Do we have any comments or questions, or can we call for a motion? Motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Madam Secretary, can you call for the vote?
Member Frost,
Yes.
Member Killebrew,
Yes.
Member Pagano,
Yes.
Vice Chair Mitchell.
Yes.
This motion passes by a vote of 4-0.
Moving right through. The quarterly financial report ending June 30th, 2024. It's a recommended action that the Financial Review Committee receive and discuss the information provided and forward to the City Council with recommendation to receive and file. May I ask for a staff report, please?
Hi, the fiscal year 2024 ended with revenues at 52.2 million and expenditures came in at 51.7 million with 44.7 million and excluding the 7 million transfers out. Overall, the city's ending fund balance is estimated to be at 27.5 million. The city's top revenue sources continue to bring in consistent revenue. However, the unusual boom in the past couple of years have become steady as inflation rates increase and consumer spending starts to slow down. This is reflected in the slight increases in property taxes and sales tax, franchise fees. We haven't seen a huge increase like we have in the past couple of years. Specifically with TOT, there was only a 1% increase from the same period last year, which is unlike the period before, or the fiscal year before from 22 to 23, which was a 7.9 increase in TOT. TOT will continue to see a decrease due to an anticipated renovation of one of our larger hotel properties. It's anticipated that in the later part of fiscal year 25, they will close down about half of their rooms to do the renovations. Staff will be making a recommendation to City Council in the September 17th meeting as to how to prepare for the decrease in TOT receipts. Additionally, it's important that to note that there was a significant growth in our investment income, about 1.8 million compared to fiscal year 23. It's also, this income includes the interest revenue earned from our restricted PARS account. We continue to see higher than average returns in investment revenues due to the high interest rates, but it's going to start to taper off as the Federal Reserve is expected to do a series of interest rate cuts over the next year. On the other side, the city's revenue expenditures ended the fiscal year at 44.7 million, excluding the 7 million transfers out, and saw an overall increase of 2 million compared to fiscal year 23. The increase in expenditures are a combination of various factors. Personnel costs increased by 403,000 compared to the prior fiscal year, but still came in at 646 under budget. There was no increase to the budget, but the increase in expenditures was due to the new MOU with the DPA that included an increase in compensation and a one-time non-base building bonus for staff. Professional services increased 747,000 due to the general plan update, SANDAG, and the completed bronze statue. The police services contract also increased, which was anticipated, and the rest of the expenditure increases was due to an increase in maintenance costs and renovations citywide. Lastly, the city's investment portfolio remains healthy with a balance of 65.3 million and maintains liquidity and available cash balances per the general fund reserve policy. This includes my fiscal year 23-24 fourth quarter report, and staff is available to answer any questions that you may have.
I also wanted to add that next week we'll be taking the carryover report to City Council. So we ended unassigned fund balance in the general fund ended about 12.3 million, which is about 9 million over the required 3.3 million per policy. Staff's going to be making some recommendations, including holding back an extra 3.5% of budgeted general fund budgeted revenue. We already require 4 to 7% to be kept in unassigned fund balance. We're going to be asking for another 3.5%, and mostly that's because we're going to need to decrease revenues by 1.1 million because of the potential loss in revenue from the renovations at one of our larger hotel properties. So we're also recommending so that still leaves us with an excess fund balance of about 3 million, which we're going to transfer over to the CIP. The next item in this agenda is talking about updating our community investment account policy. So the recommendation will be to put it, which we'll discuss in the next agenda item, to just unassigned fund balance instead of the CIA. Also included in the carryovers, because we had the CIP subcommittee had prioritized various unfunded CIP projects. We've added some of those projects into the fiscal year 25 CIP budget using some of that unused CIA money, community investment account money.
Yep.
So, but that's all coming next week to the city council meeting. But the city ended the year very well and in a good position to deal with the possible or the anticipated loss in revenue from TOT and sales tax. So with that, we can answer any other questions.
That answered my question.
Just one question in reference to the other side of that. I know it's much smaller, but did we contemplate the additional TOT that we'll be receiving from the other hotel that brought online this fiscal year?
Yes.
Do we know what the total gap is? You said, how much do you think?
Rough estimate. So TOT last fiscal year came in at 16.8 million. We budgeted 16.2, knowing that there might be a little bit of slowdown. Realistic estimate probably was 16.5, so we kind of came in with the 1 million, knowing that we're probably gonna maybe bring in 16.5 roughly. And then also based on what this hotel did the last 6 months of this most recent fiscal year.
Thank you.
Great. Any other
I
questions?
don't have questions on this one, so I'll move the item that we send it up to the city council.
I second that. Madam Secretary, call for a vote, please.
Member Frost?
Yes.
Member Killebrew?
Yes.
Member Pagano?
Yes.
Vice Chair Mitchell?
Yes.
This motion passes by a vote of 4-0.
Big one, infrastructure asset management policy update. It's recommended action that the financial review committee consider a recommendation to the city council to approve the updates to the financial policy 231 infrastructure asset management policy and rescind financial policy 234 community investment account. Staff, can we have a report, please?
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, typically when we end the fiscal year and we account for any replenishing of reserves and expected increases in expenditures, and we have our final excess fund balance, we transferred over to the community or the CIP fund, and we put it in a separate reserve, the community investment account reserve. We also, so instead of, the staff's recommendation is instead of putting it in the community investment account, is to just put it into unassigned general, or unassigned CIP fund balance. And then rescinding, so right now the CIA policy is just to do that. It's to toss over the remaining excess fund balance over to the CIP and put it in a separate reserve. The infrastructure asset management policy details how we put together our CIP plan, our 7-year CIP, how we do the funding. So we've taken a lot of similar language that was in the CIA policy, put it over into the infrastructure asset management policy, but we've added another feature because right now all of the infrastructure asset management policy, all it says is that we have to keep a positive fund balance and unassigned fund balance. Where the new policy will be, we'll keep at least 5% of anticipated 5% of general fund operating revenue as a minimum balance as unassigned. So there's always something in there in case of an emergency. So if we have something comes up in the city and we need to dip into the CIP for an unanticipated project, the funding is there.
The CIP unassigned account, is that restricted monies only exclusively for CIP, or in the event we need to transfer that money back out, are we able to do that?
You can't transfer it back out.
The restricted monies are kept in separate funds, and for that money that we use on projects, we reimburse the CIP fund as we spend the restricted portion of it.
Another piece of it is not a change to the policy, but a practice. Several years back, the city council approved moving Lantern Bay impact fees over to the CIP and putting it in a separate Doheny Village reserve account. These are funds that we don't get very often. We get them every once in a while when there's a big development in the Lantern Village. So instead of keeping that money in its own separate reserve as well, we would still transfer the money over to the CIP, but again, it would just stay in unassigned fund balance.
Why did we create that again? What is there's no,
It was to show some people in Capitol Beach that the city council cared about Capitol Beach.
okay, so you just wanna go from 2 accounts to 1?
It was 3 accounts to 1.
Was there a loss of interest by moving it out?
No.
All the interest earned on the capital projects fund, except for this unique team-up that we did, is actually for the general fund,
Mhm.
cause it's all unrestricted monies anyway.
Yeah, it's easier accounting wise?
It's easier accounting wise, but also we added that layer of keeping of requiring a certain minimum amount in unassigned fund balance, which is probably good financial policy.
And just also, the CIA and the Doheny Village account are unrestricted accounts. The
Yeah.
city council could have transferred them to do whatever they wanted to anyway, so it was more of a, I'll call it a political accounting as opposed to actual
Oh.
accounting, so.
Okay.
And then also, as I mentioned earlier, the CIP subcommittee had given staff a listing of projects, and we're putting some of that money, using some of the CIA money, which will be unassigned. There's projects in the fiscal year 25 recommended budgeted adjustments, but the Public Works Department is also building into the long-term 7-year CIP those other projects that the subcommittee prioritized.
So you still have access to do any one of those projects out of one account without having to go through the accounting gymnastics.
Makes sense to me. Yeah, we didn't reference the budgets in those funds at all, prioritize, so, yeah. Curious, why not just leave it in the general fund until Matt starts a project?
Kind of the idea is it's one-time money. So instead of showing it as and balancing operating annual budgets using that pot of money where the policies are set up so that we balance the general fund on the general fund, including establishing reserves and making sure they're filled, including funding our capital projects as we've designed. So we have to balance our operating budget in order to make sure that we're maintaining our assets and our reserves in addition to paying our bills. So I'll say it's a much better policy than you see in a lot of government agents, in a lot of local governments, that all too often when tough budget times come, they don't have the policies in place to force them to make the hard decisions. Instead, they'll say, let's not repave our streets this year, nobody's gonna notice. Let's not replace vehicles this year, nobody's gonna notice right away.
What year did we open those accounts?
19.
Is there, okay, so I'm just thinking like for historical information, like when we go a year from now, 2 years from now, looking at historical fund balances,
Mhm.
it will be lopsided a little bit, right, in the sense that those accounts will have not existed.
But it's still in the same fund balance, so. if you
It still
add 'em all
totals the
up-
same fund balance, got it.
Yeah, they're actually they're called designated accounts, not reserve accounts for technical purposes, cause you can move them. The council made a designation, but it's not actually restricted, so
Got
that's
it.
So we could take it, not that we would, but we could take it from the CIP unassigned and send it back to the
Yep,
general?
Yes.
yep.
Okay.
And
And
you could have
that's-
done it even when it was in the
CIA.
CIA.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that was my question as far as why not just leave it in the general fund, but if this is,
The
whatever's
city
easiest.
City didn't used to have an emergency reserve in the general fund, an operating reserve in the general fund, and an undesignated general fund balance, set amount, 4 to 7%.
We just had a big account.
We had an account. And when it came up short, like in 2008 and 2009, as the Great Recession hit, and we had, the whole finance industry bailed out on all of our group meetings, and we lost 40% of our hotel revenue. The city back then had designated accounts in the CIP fund. One was replace the high school swimming pool, one was rebuild the county's library. There was millions of dollars in those accounts, and staff was able to convince the council, let's just get rid of those accounts, will help us get through this. We've got accounts now that can help us get through tough times. And policies to rebuild the reserves.
Yeah, I'll move the recommended action, staff's recommendation.
Any other questions, ma'am?
I think I'm okay.
Okay, second? I'll make the second for this. Madam Secretary, will you call for a vote, please?
Member Frost,
Yes.
Member Killebrew,
Yes.
Member Pagano.
Yeah.
Vice Chair Mitchell.
Yes.
The motion passes by a vote of 4-0.
On to item number 5, CalPERS pension actuarial update. Recommended action, the financial review committee receive an update and discuss the information provided. Steph?
Yeah, so the city recently received the updated CalPERS annual valuation reports as of June 30th, 2023, which gives us updated information on our unfunded pension liabilities. Per the report, our total unfunded liability between both our PEPRA and miscellaneous accounts is about $8.2 million, which makes us about 80% funded. End of fiscal year 24, CalPERS reported a preliminary investment return of 9.3%, which is a bit higher than their 6.8 assumed rate of return, which is good for the cities, which will be good for the city when they get their actuarial report for 24 next summer. So we did some modeling and plugged in the 9.3% preliminary returns, and that brought our estimated combined UAL to about 5.7 million, which is headed in the right direction. And we already have it's about 4.5 million currently in our Section 115 trust. So the city did make a $1.85 million additional payment to CalPERS this last March. We still have another $1.85 million that we could make an additional payment this fiscal year. Staff wants to do a little bit of additional analysis, and per policy, we're supposed to bring back to the FRC much more detailed report with more modeling and more information in the FRC's October meeting. So this is just kind of like a preliminary look and to provide you with actuarial reports in anticipation of that report. And that concludes staff report. I'm happy to answer any questions.
How does 80% fare compared to some of the other cities? Seems like we're pretty strong.
We're doing pretty good, especially considering we have the extra 4.5 in our pension trust.
And 1.3 or 4 in the general fund.
Yes, the 1.8.
1.8.
Yeah. So if you count that, based on the current modeling, we're 100% funded.
Is there any negative unintended consequences that could happen by us, say, being head and shoulders above the rest of the cities from a funding perspective?
To be ahead of, no.
Nothing.
No, because we're part of the risk pool because we have under 100 employees, but our unfunded liabilities are our unfunded liabilities, and that we're responsible for, and aren't affected by whether or not San Clemente is what.
So in the event there was a hardship in making something up,
Yeah.
and some of the cities were insolvent, it would not affect any of our account balances?
No. They get to go to their taxpayers.
That's awesome.
In the analysis that staff wants to do for the 1.8 million, what kind of things are you looking for?
Just like interest savings, we did some calculations and got feedback from our actuarial at CalPERS on what kind of interest savings we would get by making these additional discretionary payments. Now with the additional information on returns from CalPERS, we just want to recalculate those and bring that back to this committee to discuss.
Shouldn't we make a smaller payment therefore, if their returns were better than their discount rate from last year?
We could, but I think our current policy is we're always trying to strive to at least get 100% funded. Obviously, that changes as CalPERS investment returns go up and down. I believe they're going to be looking at their actuarial assumptions. They do an ALM evaluation every 4 years, and I think they're due to start that process at the end of this year. And then they're going to look at their discount rate. They're going to look at other actuarial factors.
They will listen to how loud the members that aren't doing well scream.
Yeah.
Because the CalPERS staff is going to want to lower the discount rate, which decreases the volatility, but that will increase how much people are going to have to pay.
Yeah.
For that.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's.
But assuming they kept the discount rate the same, this is more just you teaching me, assuming they kept it the same, if we made that payment, we'd be over 100% funded. correct?
For the time being, until
Yeah.
they lose money, right?
Got it,
Right.
okay, I
Yeah.
wanna, cause right now, we're 100%, I know the beginning of this said we're 8, well, that was last year.
Yeah,
Our goal is to reduce our unfunded liability down to,
it's a
An
minimum
amount
90%, but
it's kinda
always striving
flat,
for
so it's
100.
predictable,
Yeah.
as opposed to going crazy.
Yeah.
So when she's doing her analysis, she's gonna look at the different years where there was losses and gains that they're amortizing over time. It's probably gonna be picking some of the bigger loss years out, so they're not in our amortization.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll help boil it down to something that's more predictable, you know, so.
And I also want to note that 9.3% return, I was on a webinar the other day and I asked the question to the actuarial whether or not that was going to trigger the risk management. They have a risk management strategy that if they beat their assumed rate of return, that they will reduce their discount rate. So this 9.3 should reduce their discount rate by 5 basis points based on their policy, but the board has to vote on it. And like Mike said,
It's
there's
political.
enough people to
Yeah.
not
We
want
would
that.
like it at about 6.2.
Yeah, because that's a more realistic long-term rate of return.
It used to be
Yeah.
It used to be,
Seven.
yeah,
8.8%
Yeah,
or 8.6.
pretty high.
And they dropped it down.
Do they take a trailing factor, or what, they just look, like, how do they?
Every year they have a gain, they'll amortize it over 20 years
Got it.
into the calculation, or a loss, same
Mhm.
thing. So you have layers by year of gain or loss.
You can have some big swings for you a year.
Yeah.
Yes, but they're amortizing over 20.
Mhm.
But if we can pick off, and we can say we're gonna pay off, 2009,
Mhm.
a big loss year, we're gonna pay that one off. It takes it out of your amortization base,
Mhm.
for however many, there'd be another 6 years left on that.
So with the reduced discount rate, cities that aren't happy about it are gonna have to pay more money.
Yes, because the assumed return on the assets is lower.
Yeah.
Which means their unfunded liability is bigger on paper. Yeah, just, they're heading in the right direction though. It used to be a lot more volatile.
Any other comments or questions?
Is this oh, we don't send this up, okay.
This is just, for discussion, we're not voting on this today. So we're gonna move on to item number 6, the GFOA Certificate of Achievement for Excellent in Financial Reporting. It's our recommended action that we receive an update and discuss the information provided. Staff report?
This is just information to let the FRC know the city did receive the GFOA Certificate of Achievement in Financial Reporting for our annual comprehensive financial report for fiscal year 23. We're currently in the process of completing the fiscal year 24 audit and putting together the ACFR is what we call it, and we will be submitting for the award again. But this is, I looked and researched a little. This is the 34th year that the city's consistently received this reward, and so finance staff is really committed to maintaining the quality of our financial reporting.
That's amazing.
Great.
Is-
Awesome.
Kudos too, because to the staff, we get comments, like where the reviewers find issues. So we started including these probably about 6-7 years ago. That not only do you see the award, but you'll see where the comments are made, that you can do something a little differently, spell something out, and the comments are minor.
How many other coastal cities, do most coastal cities get that award, or?
Yes, it's almost like not a good thing if you don't get the award.
Oh, God.
Yeah, it's, yeah,
It is not a good thing if you don't get
it's
the
not a
award.
good thing if you don't get it.
It's not good if you get it, it's good, it's not good if you don't get it.
Yeah,
'cause
yeah.
It means you have audit issues too. So.
Yes.
Alright, any other questions on this topic? Any other staff reports this evening?
No other staff reports.
Financial Review Committee member reports?
Great job, staff, great job, C.
All right, thank you.
And we are adjourned, and our next meeting will be October 29th, 2024 at 4 p.m. Thank you.